y'all, welcome back to Krista's Kitchen. So today we have a kind of new recipe. We're gonna develop it together. This is not something I've ever done before. I actually have never even heard of it until recently. So a friend of mine's husband makes something called after boil soup, and the name just kind of sounds gross to me, but the soup was really good. She let me taste some of hers, and I'm gonna try and go off of her suggestions and what she put in it and kind of see how we turn it. But the name just is not there for me, so we're going to change it. If this works out and it turns out well, we're going to change it to next day soup. Just the name after boil, just something gross about it, but the soup was delicious. So I'll give it to Jason. He did really good on it, and I'm going to see if I can kind of recreate it. I don't have an exact recipe I'm following, just kind of adding some of the things she had in her soup and using what we have left over after shrimp and crawfish boil. Now, I know she said about a pound of meat, like there's some crawfish. No, she had shrimp in hers instead of crawfish, but we have crawfish and shrimp, and I'm going to throw in some of our homemade andouille sausage in it. But I'm going to bring it all over to the stove and we'll kind of develop this together. Okay, y'all, so the first thing we have is some butter melting in the bottom of our pot. We're going to add in some garlic, bell pepper, and some celery to start with. And we're going to make a little roux in this pot as well. Usually in your crawfish or your shrimp boils, you're going to have your protein choice, so the crawfish or the shrimp, some onions, mushrooms, let's see, corn, garlic, sausage. Really, you could throw anything you want to in it, but those are the pretty standard items. Now, we don't have any garlic left, so I am going to use some minced garlic. And I'm probably doing about, y'all know I love my garlic, so about 2 tablespoons full. Because this is going to be very creamy, and I want to taste that garlic flavor in it. Now, I also have a lot of celery, and almost all of my soups have a base with some celery in it. But I'm going to add in about a stalk or 2 of celery. Now, this is what I've had in my freezer that I've already got chopped up. So we're going to let this warm up and get some of that frozen bits off of it. I'm also going to throw in, I've chopped up 2 green bell pepper. So I'm going to get this in the bottom of this base also. We're not doing the carrots on this tray just yet. Let's see, I'm going to kind of slide this all in here. I figured I'd put my little thing to good use. I never use it in the videos, but that way maybe I'm spilling less. And I'm super excited. Like I said, the soup that she let me try was delicious. It's just not something I've ever heard of before. And it's going to make a lot. So we've got that at a medium-high heat, and we're just going to let that cook down until it softens. And I'll let y'all know how long that takes total. One runaway back here, but I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Okay, y'all, that's getting pretty soft, but it still has a little ways to go, so I'm just going to kind of push it to the side and let it keep cooking. And now we're going to toss in our sausage just to render off some of that fat, because I want to use it in just a minute with this butter that's in here for flavoring, but for some of that oil that's in it. So this is our little bowl of protein, and this is our homemade andouille sausage that I'm going to put in it. Just going to slide those in. Now, I am adding in a pound of sausage. Total, I probably have 3 or 4 pounds of meat, which absolutely do not have to have that much. But I had a whole package of sausage that I thawed. We have about a pound of crawfish tails and about probably a pound and a half of shrimp. And I just want to use up what we have and really give this everything I got if we're going to try it out. You could choose to do one of the seafoods or both. It's really, we're going to just make it our own. And that's what you should do every time you're cooking, is just make it what you like. No recipe should be exact. Use it to what fits for your family. So if there's something in here also that you don't like, just leave it out or switch it out. Like the mushrooms, my stepmom would not like the mushrooms at all. So you just kind of leave those out or pick around them. If everybody else likes them, they can just kind of pick them out. And we just want to pull some of the fat off and just get a little sear on them. They don't have to be fully cooked because we're going to cook this down. But I want to get some of that, render out some of that fat. Alright y'all, so our sausage did render off some fat, but it looks like most of our veggies soaked that up. So we're going to have to add in some more oil, or I'll probably just stick with the butter when I make my roux. But you see we've got some nice flavor bits over here that we're going to get to scrape up when we make this roux. So at least we got that good part. But maybe I should have scooped out the veggies before doing the sausage, or just do the sausage and then saute the veggies in it. But no matter what, the flavor is going to still be there. We're still going to have it in our veggies, and we'll get that into our soup part in a minute. We just don't have it in the roux itself. And don't let the word roux scare you. Like, there's nothing to it. As long as you're not scorching your flour, roux is very simple. It's just 2 ingredients, and you kind of pay attention to those ingredients, and you'll be fine. And the pan doesn't have to be completely cleaned of all of this, but I am going to turn, I am going to turn my heat down just a little bit. So let me grab the butter. We're going to add in a little bit more butter. Alright, we've got our butter. I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons. 2 southern tablespoons. And we're going to add in some flour. And we just basically are making this so we have a little thickening agent in there. So our butter's already going to start to pick up some of these little juicy bits on the bottom. I'm going to sprinkle in some flour. I'm going to do maybe half a cup to start with. Now, let me see. I'm going to pull my whisk. And if we need to add a little bit more liquid, then we always can. Like I said, you don't have to worry about a roux. You just need to make sure you get it nice and creamy and cook it well. You basically want to cook out this flour taste, but we're using it to thicken up our soup. I'm going to add in a little bit of chicken broth. So I have a can of chicken broth that I'm starting with, and we'll kind of see how much we use it. I do have another for backup just in case with all of this it's too thick. So I'm pouring in about a half a cup of the chicken broth to start. And you see that thickened up really fast. I don't like pouring all of the fluid in all at once because one, you don't want to break your roux, but you also don't know, like you want to pay attention to how much you add in so your ratios are good. But a little bit at a time and just get those clumps all mixed out. And it's going to be picking up those little flavor bits on the bottom of the pan too. So at this point we're at a whole can of chicken broth. Like I said, y'all, I have no recipe to go by, just tasting and seeing some of the ingredients and going off what she said, so we're kind of developing this together. Okay, y'all, we're just letting this cook a little bit. I'm going to add in slowly another can of chicken broth to thin it out some, but I'm going to let this cook for at least 5 or 10 minutes to cook off that flour taste, let it get all thickened up, and then we'll come back and start adding in our ingredients. Okay, y'all, so this has been cooking for about 7 minutes. We're just stirring it to make sure nothing's stuck to the bottom. We've been stirring it along the way. And now we get to add in all of our other ingredients. So, I'm going to turn my heat down just a second. That way it's not going to burn. But we're going to add in 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup. Everything that's going into this at this point is already cooked and ready to eat, except for the carrots that we're going to let soften. And hers didn't have carrots in it, but any way I can try and add some extra veggies or something in, I do. So my kids love carrots. Figured this would be something easy, and plus it'll add a little bit of sweetness and cut some of the spices that we're going to get from the food from the crawfish boil. So just mixing our soups around. And I don't know what she used for, or her husband used for the cream base. So I have a whole, what is this, a quart, a quart of half and half, and then I have about half of a quart of heavy cream. I'm going to start with the half and half and kind of see what consistency that gives us. We're going to put the whole thing in. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and add in my half a quart, or what would be a pint of heavy cream to it also. Now see, this is very rich. The richness is going to be balanced by all of the spice that's in from our crawfish boil. So we're going to mix this around. We have kind of a cafe au lait color palette going here. All right, and here comes the fun stuff. we're going to add in our shrimp that are already cooked and our crawfish that are already cooked. Like I said, this is about a pound of crawfish tails, and I'd guess about 1.5 pounds of shrimp. So we're going to add that in. Ooh, we still got a little mushroom. You'll see I didn't separate them as good as I thought. So we got that. We're going to add in our sausage and our bell pepper that we just had and all the juices that have kind of settled from it. Our pot's getting full fast. Just mix that around. And now we're going to add in some of the potatoes, onions, and mushrooms that were left over. Now our mushrooms are just sliced in half, and we just have some bigger chunks of potato. And I don't mind that the onions are kind of sliced like this. They were just sliced into big rings to cook. So I'm going to see about how many cups total I've put in this. So we're at, let's see, that's a 1 cup measuring. So we are at a cup. 2 cups. I'm going to try and get some more of these mushrooms because I really like the mushrooms. Maybe 1 more. Because we still have a few other ingredients to put in here. So get that mixed around. This is going to be a very hearty soup. Okay, so I'm going to toss in a can of drained corn. I do have a second can over here, so we'll see how full we get. But we're going to start with 1 can. We do not have any corn left over from cooking crawfish and shrimp, so that's why I'm going with canned corn. And then I have 4 of my little Misfits carrots that I've chopped up into some big pieces. And again, this is just to add some color, some nutrients, and it'll add some sweetness to this as well. So let's get this mixed in. Now we're going to let this simmer for at least 30 to 40 minutes, but everything in here is cooked except the carrots. So if it needs longer, that's really what it's going to depend on, if the carrots haven't quite softened. Now, I really want to add another can of corn, but I'm afraid I'll start to boil over, even though we're just going to try and keep this at a simmer. So we'll just wait and see. I may, after we eat some of this down, I may toss in a little bit more corn. I just think the corn's really going to add a nice sweetness to it. But again, we're getting pretty full here. We're going to let this simmer for about 30-45 minutes. We'll be stirring along the way, and I'll check on these carrots as we go to make sure they're getting nice and cooked. But we'll add more seasoning after everything's come together and we've had a chance to taste it and develop our flavors from there. So let's get it turned back to a medium heat, and we'll see y'all soon. Hey y'all, so this is amazing. I'm just going to tell you. So I did take a taste test after 30 minutes, check to see if the carrots were cooked all the way, and they're nice and tender but not mushy. So that's wonderful. I did go ahead and stir in that second can of corn, but I didn't add any extra seasonings. And I'm telling y'all, this is delicious. So I pulled out a bowl and I'm letting it cool down just a second because it is piping hot. But this really seasoned itself with the fact that we had a spicy crawfish and shrimp boil, and all of those flavors had soaked into the potatoes, the onions, the mushrooms, everything. So we didn't add no extra salt, no extra seasoning. We just let the food do the flavoring for it. And I've licked the spoon about 5 or 6 times already because I wanted to see, we'll make an excuse of why I licked the spoon that many times, but I wanted to see, it's still pretty hot, I wanted to see if we needed to add anything back in, like we needed to change anything, and this is just, this is so good. I'm super excited to give it a try. But we have tons of variety in here. We have corn, onions, peppers, celery, crawfish, shrimp, our homemade sausage, which you can use regular andouille sausage. The potatoes, the carrots, like it's so good. And this creamy base, I thought for a little bit it might be too much cream. And I think it really works to balance it out. The cream with the spices, it just works out perfectly. But hopefully y'all give it a try. We're gonna sit down and chow down because this is definitely something I'll make again. I won't be calling it after boil soup. We'll call it like next day soup or day after soup. But this is definitely a winner no matter what you call it. So thank you, Nicole and Jason. And thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.